What is going on, Bears fans? You might feel disgusted with the 30-12 drubbing that the Bears just received at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings. You probably watched the product on the field. You probably saw Caleb Williams. Again, no interceptions, only sacked twice. Not really soaring, but not really being a horrible quarterback. Missing a few passes, let's grant that. We'd like to see a little bit more accuracy, but we're still dealing with a rookie trying to get through the rookie problems, and the problems are exacerbated by the loss of an offensive coordinator as the Bears cycle repeats itself, by the loss of a head coach as the Bears cycle repeats itself. And look, there's a group of players on this team that are clearly not motivated and that are clearly not putting in the work. And there is a coaching staff here who ain't it. They are not it. Nobody is playing hard for Thomas Brown. Nobody's playing hard for Eric Washington. Now, if you think that that is the case and you think that that's not the problem, that's fine. There was a conversation to be had yesterday where at one point there was some conversation and it was about this. It was, maybe we keep Thomas Brown as an offensive coordinator and we have to get a head coach, and the head coach is going to have to be cool with Thomas Brown because, look, we did that with Rod Marinelli a few years ago with Mark Trestman, and the relationship was a little bit acrimonious, and Rod Marinelli took off after, I think, the 2013 season, where the Bears were a really good defensive team, and then all of a sudden it just fell apart, right? So there's conversation about that. But then you put the product on the field and you see what happens here, and you see a Bears team that can't score touchdowns. The Bears were a better offensive team. Hard to believe here, but the Bears were a better offensive team under Shane Waldron than they've been under Thomas Brown to this point. So, and by the way, that does not mean that they're not doing a good job, Thomas Brown, that is, of handling Caleb Williams. And that's fine. That's we want to see Caleb Williams have that soft landing. We want to see him continue to develop so that he gains that confidence. And it should be pointed out, because it was pointed out by Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Troy Aikman went 0 for 11 in his first season. Caleb Williams is now 4 and 10 in his first season. And Caleb Williams has looked good. Has he looked great? No. Have there been flashes of brilliance? Absolutely. Is he the guy? I think the answer is yes. Caleb Williams, despite the play calling, and by the way, when I say play calling, let's just go on a little bit of a tangent here. You saw the play. I know you saw the play. It was in the fourth quarter, and it was Keenan Allen touching the ball to catch the ball coming his way, but the ball wasn't even thrown to Keenan Allen. It was being thrown to Roma Dunze, who was doing a slide into the end zone for a touchdown. Keenan Allen touches the ball, really basically deflects it away, thinking that maybe he was the one and that it was just a bad pass. Turns out it was a perfectly timed throw to Roma Dunze. Why are there two receivers in the end zone in the same spot? Who is dumb enough who's dumb enough to call a play where two wide receivers are sitting in the same spot of the end zone fighting over who's going to get the ball? I'll tell you the answer to that. Thomas Brown. You guys can think what you want, and if you have an opinion of Thomas Brown that's positive, I don't have a negative opinion of Thomas Brown, but I see the product on the field. I see the play call, not not DeAndre Swift, who's working his tail off, not Caleb Williams, who's working his tail off, not DJ Moore, who's working his tail off, not the players, not Cole Kmet, who's working his tail off for no reason, apparently. There's players putting in work here, and the way that the plays are being called makes it redundant. There's no reason. And for the second straight game, the Chicago Bears, the vaunted Chicago Bears defense that was supposed to get after quarterbacks this year and was supposed to shut down passes, was supposed to shut down the passing game. No. In fact, the Minnesota had over 114 yards rushing. Let's look at the stats, by the way. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button on the way in, and let's keep ranting. So Caleb finishes 18 of 31 for 191 yards with a touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks, a QBR of 25.3, not good, and a rating of 86.9, better, to Sam Darnold, who's 24 of 40, didn't have a great game. Caleb Williams looks like he had superior stat lines across the board, except for QBR, which, look, I mean, you got to have more than one touchdown. You've got to complete a few. You got to the errant throws. Look, we'll get to that in just a moment. But as far as running goes, I mean, listen, DeAndre Swift, not that far off Aaron Jones, and we saw Aaron Jones just barreling over people. And look, 29 rushes, and they had only rushed just a little bit during the course of the game. So as the game started to break down into the more pass-oriented portion, that was not the difference maker. The difference was that, and you saw the plays. You saw Doug Kramer not report in, no touchdowns over here. The Bears are still allergic to points. So, I don't know what to say otherwise. You had 2 field goals from Cairo Santos, and you have 1 touchdown throw going to Keenan Allen. But Keenan Allen is a guy here, and look, this is one of those days where Keenan Allen had 13 targets for only 6 receptions. When you look at it, DJ Moore, 8 of 8. You threw the ball to DJ Moore, automatic. You threw the ball to Keenan Allen, it was a toss-up. And by the way, when I say toss-up, Keenan Allen dropped catchable balls, okay? There is some truth here. Caleb Williams did overthrow him. And you see one when he's going into the end zone, and Caleb Williams just overthrows him out of bounds twice, by the way. And you don't want to see that, and it counts against him. So Caleb Williams bears some responsibility. But look at this: Rome Odunze, 2 catches, 7 targets. How do you get targeted that much and have that little success? We have a problem here, both in Caleb's accuracy. Which, by the way, we're going to have that. He's a rookie. He's going to improve. He's going to keep getting better. He's not turning the ball over. That's the important part. He's not really just turning this ball over constantly, right? Now, we did have a fumble. This is the second fumble this in 2 weeks. So we still have a problem with fumbles, but as far as not throwing the ball away, I like what I see from Caleb Williams. I mean, we're talking about 300 or 400 passes at this point where he's just not throwing the ball away. He's not making the boneheaded the throws. And by the way, there are a lot of great throws. I mean, if you go back and you look at Rome Odunze in the end zone, missing again. Remember, this is the guy that we drafted to go up and get the ball because he was sure-handed, and he was the guy that was going to be a difference maker where he would go up on contested passes and that he would bring the ball down. He's not doing that, but we should at least recognize that. He is, like the things that we said about him, not true at this point. By the way, it doesn't mean that he's not a great receiver or will not be a fantastic receiver. Doesn't mean that at all. Does mean that, 7 targets and only 2 catches, that's not what we're looking for out of our number 9 overall draft pick. We're looking for 5 to 10 receptions. We're looking for TJ Hawkinson type numbers, and I know he's a tight end. Stick with me here. But 5 receptions off of 7, and, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a guy who goes up and he makes those other 3 catches. What are those other 3 catches in terms of points? Maybe the final score is 19-30. Doesn't give us a win. Doesn't mean that we won the game. That would come from Keenan Allen making his catches. But, that's where we are. That's what's going on. That's what this team looks like. That's what's happening. And the one person that you can say that just is really kind of the glue holding this defense together still remains TJ Edwards. He had 2 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He had 8 total. He had 8 total tackles. And when you go down the list here, you've got Chris Williams with a sack. You got TJ Edwards with a sack. You've got tackles for losses. Look, the defense did, I want to say, okay statistically, but we remember Kevin Byard getting pushed around for a first down. We remember Tyreek Stevenson getting pushed around. Tyreek Stevenson with just guys, Tyreek Stevenson at this point is a failed experiment, and we like him, okay? We like Tyreek Stevenson, but he has missed a lot of plays here. And by the way, the penalty, I want to go over here and I want to show you the penalties. We had 9 penalties for 93 yards compared to 10 for 56. Now, look, 9 penalties for 93 yards. Weren't 5 of them Karan Emagaji in his first start? Karan's going to have to be better. That's, those were, and by the way, were they game-changing plays? In hindsight, no. During the course of the moment, yeah, probably. It would make it certainly a lot easier. But Doug Kramer took points off the board by not checking in. And Karan just, he had 2 holding calls, a couple of a couple of false starts. Like, I mean, there's a litany of problems. And not only that, but, he was just basically giving Dallas Turner, he's holding up he was putting a red carpet around himself and just holding up the rope so that Dallas Turner could just get in there and sack Caleb Williams. Like, Karan's going to have to be better. That was a very bad game, but it was his first start. You know what? That's where you work out your kinks, if you will. Ultimately, we look at it this way. The Bears had 284 yards of total offense compared to 329 for Minnesota, and 16 first downs compared to 24. Now, we don't like this. We want to see a few more. We want to see more first downs. We want to see more ball movement. There's still some problems. We're getting behind the sticks because we're getting false start, because we're getting holding calls. When you cannot have second and third and short, you are creating a problem for your team. So we've experienced a problem for the team. But here's the thing. I think that problem is going to be solved very soon, because it turns out, and look, some of you are going to be for this, some of you are going to be against it, but this comes down to Ben Johnson. Insiders are dropping a critical update on the Ben Johnson Bears saga, and I'm going to skip down here to the important part. Ben Johnson's people have made it clear to the Bears that he's interested. Now, you see in my comment section down below, by the way, let me know if you think that Ben Johnson is a good choice as a potential head coach for the Bears. But you go down here and people are like, well, nobody in Detroit is saying that is going to be the problem. That nobody in Detroit is saying that he's going to come to the Chicago Bears. That there was no way that he's going to take a job at the NFC North. And that's the way they talk in my head. You know what I'm saying? But the process of communication with Ben Johnson will be complicated by the deep playoff run for the Lions. Would the Bears be okay waiting for Johnson till after the Super Bowl? Yes, I was told. Unequivocally, if he's the guy. Now, here's the thing. Is he the guy? Mike Vrabel is still out there. We've got Marcus Freeman, who's in the conversation. We got, for some reason, by the way, we've got Joe Brady, who's in the conversation. We have a list that we're looking at, and, number one on that list is Ben Johnson. Now, look, and guys, by the way, let me also say that I don't care what you think of it. I really don't, because there's 2 things. Number one, he's running the top-rated offense in the NFL. So if he leaves, that's not the top-rated offense in the NFL anymore. If it is, then it's not because of him. And if it isn't because of him and it's because of Dan Campbell, I'd find that hard to believe. So Ben Johnson, probably a creative guy and probably exactly what the Bears would need from an offensive standpoint, fine. But it takes away one of the big tools in our division and puts him on the Bears. So is that a good thing ultimately? I think it's better for the Bears. And if he were to continue sitting there in Detroit, calling plays that are designed to gouge us and carve us up. So, and could he be a head coach? I mean, that is really the question here, and we don't know the answer to that until we get a real sense of who he is and what he does. The NFL loves him, so does that make him the guy? Not exactly, but the only thing that we'll know at that point is we'll have to see how he plays out. We know Mike Vrabel, we know what he brings to the table. We just don't know about Ben Johnson. We don't know about Joe Brady. We know what we think, but again, we only think about it. Now, the thing is, they've never been patient, the Bears. They want to fill key jobs as quickly as possible rather than wait for the best potential candidate. San Francisco didn't hire Kyle Shanahan until February 6th. Mike McDaniel wasn't hired until February 6th. Kevin O'Connell wasn't hired until February 16th. Zach Taylor wasn't hired until February 4th. These guys are waiting. So the question is, will the Chicago Bears wait for their guy? So we shall see whether or not something happens here. Now, don't expect anything to happen for a while. Don't expect to see any kind of news that would, look, the Detroit Lions are going into the play, and they're going to need their offensive coordinator, and he's not going to give up his job until he's done doing his job. That's the type of man that you want anyway. So we'll see what the Chicago Bears do. But right now, it looks like and feels like Ben Johnson is that guy, and that the Chicago Bears should just wait patiently to see how this all plays out, how he does in the playoffs, what it looks like at the end of this season, and then we'll have a testament to what the Chicago Bears are going to do. And look, if you are one of those people right now and you're on Mike Vrabel team and stuff like that, and you're like, well, we'll just keep Thomas Brown and Mike Vrabel. Come on. Thomas Brown can't run an offense that scores points. Can he keep Caleb Williams from turning the ball over? Well, he can't keep him from fumbling because he keeps fumbling. But as far as interceptions go, I like that. I'm not opposed, but I think Caleb Williams is doing that on his own. Caleb Williams is not a turnover guy. He had a very few interceptions even in college. This is not Thomas Brown. Caleb Williams is succeeding, in my estimation, by watching the product right now. He is succeeding personally without coaching. So you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let's bear down, bear out this season, and hope that we get a new Papa Bear coming up very, very soon. We'll talk to you again soon.